Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Coffee and Christ on a Sunday morning. I am Daniel P. Riley, normally joined by Jonathan and Michael. Michael might make it. Jonathan should be here shortly. He's just running a little bit late. But one of the things I did promise to do at the beginning of these episodes was address comments. Jonathan is here. And the comment that I received, good morning, Jonathan,
What's up, dude?
was about me personally. Now, I'm not going to address the facts or whatever that are happening around that comment. Right now, I can't. When I can, we can talk about it, but it fits the theme of today's episode. So it's a bit of a God incidence that it appeared on my YouTube notifications. And that comment was from someone I don't know. Were you of service? This is reacting to the video from 2 weeks ago when you hurt those little kids. Wolf in sheep's clothing. The devil is real, and you, Daniel, are proof of that. It's a pretty fiery comment, but it fits really well into what I'd like to talk about today, crises of faith, because what is the most powerful statement that the devil, the enemy, whatever you want to call it, can make to you than, hey, you're just like me. As many of you may know from watching these episodes, or those of you who might be new to the channel and don't know, I struggled with faith for most of my life. And the reason for that is I was the victim of an abusive father who was also a pastor. And at a certain point in my life, what should have been directed at my father was directed at God. God, why did you give me a parent who spoke your word and then did these horrible things to me? How dare you? So for a long time, I refused God. I refused God. Very specifically saying that for a reason. It took most of my young adult life and part of my actual full adult life before I finally understood that it was not God that left me. I left God. It was not God that gave me a father who beat me. It was my father who chose to do that. God tried to give him a purpose. And he took it and did what he did. God didn't make him do that. Once I reached that point and was able to really contemplate it, that was when I was able to come back and return to my faith. And I did so through the Catholic Church. We converted several years ago. But as this comment mentioned, something happened to me recently, and I was put through probably the greatest test of my faith that I've ever endured. To the point that by the end of it, and I didn't know it was the end of it, but by the end of it, the enemy was firmly embedding itself in my head. It was a whole nother voice telling me that everyone had abandoned me, that no one cared. Who I have been my entire life didn't matter. Who I loved, who I gave my respect, who I gave my trust to, none of that mattered. No one cared. No one was coming. I was alone. It's just me and the devil. And all I could do was pray. I'm going to pray to God, the serenity prayer over and over and over again. Prayer to St. Michael the Archangel to protect me. But I admit I was breaking. I was starting to lose hope. I was starting to lose belief in the one thing that should be true. And I knew it should be true, but I couldn't convince myself that it was in the moment, that God was always with me. It was an awful experience. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today. Crises of faith. Those moments in our lives where things feel so utterly terrible that we start to forget the one universal truth. God made us, and he doesn't abandon us. But because we have free will, we convince ourselves that he did. Or we let the enemy convince us that he did. Sorry, very heavy subject for the Sunday. I'm going to let my half Kryptonian brother speak for a couple of minutes.
It is a heavy one, but there are moments in life where when we get closest to Christ, it's crazy how things like this pop up. Let it be your situation. Let it be what Mike has talked about in the past. Some of what some of our other brothers are going through right now. It's when the snowball gets going straight to God, the devil comes in and tries to knock it off. Whereas you mentioned our own free will.
I believe the devil uses our free will against us.
The great deceiver, right? Like he is the great deceiver. Because he can't create anything. There's but one creator, and that is God. And what he can do is whisper in our ear. Insert that little tic-tac size comment into our brain and just wait.
Absolutely. It really did feel like an outside force. It wasn't a thought that I was generating myself, but it was there. As I was holding steady, I was solid for hours of not knowing anything. Was, if you're familiar with, what I went through, and if you really want to know, I'm sure you can find it. They don't speak to you. You don't get informed. There are no updates. But I was solid for many hours. I want to say it was probably the 4th out of 10 when the first little tic-tac sized thought sprang into my head. And it wasn't from me. But the more and more it happened, the longer and longer it took, the more that voice started to sound like me. And that was when I knew that I was starting to crumble. The walls were starting to come down. But there are all kinds of things in this world. As one of my favorite podcasters, Andrew Clavin, calls it, this fallen world. that force a crisis of faith. And sometimes it does come from you. Sometimes it comes from outside forces. But sometimes it comes from yourself. There are things that we all have done in our past that we look back on and go, man, I handled that really poorly. And you just dwell on it.
Yeah.
Because we all have this sense of, I want to be perfect. And when I'm not, it's an affront to me. But hardships, life choices, deaths in the family, we all question. And those questions, instead of leaning on the rock that is God in our world as the creator of our world, all those questions, those bring the walls down. They whittle the grand stone down into a pebble, and you're no longer able to be supported by it. But that's inside you. It's a perception. That's what I've realized about this whole ordeal. The more I think about it, it's all a perception. God never left me. My family never abandoned me. My friends never abandoned me. But in that moment, because I couldn't get a physical representation that they were still there, I think I let myself be convinced that I was wrong and no one was there. That means that I have work to do when it comes to my faith. So I went to Vigil Mass yesterday, and I prayed, and I thanked God. I've set up to sit down with my parish priest this week to have a conversation about this privately. I need to explore this more. I need to know how I can secure my faith, because if God is always there for me, then I'm going to always be there for God. From now on, and for the rest of my life, you can reference me saying so in this video.
Yeah, I mean, all throughout the Bible, there are many people in there. Job is the first one that pops into my mind. That anytime a crisis occurs, the book of Job is a great reminder that no matter what, God is with us. Even when Job started questioning it and he almost went down the path of talking bad about God along with his friends.
Quotation marks required.
Yeah. But he caught himself. And just like you caught yourself. And everyone, I remember the first time I read the book of Job, and I thought to myself, man, why would God do this? Why would God let the enemy do that to Job? And it's precisely for these reasons right here. It is to show us that through everything, God is with us. And once the storm is done, the fruits that will be yielded will be 10 and 100.
Absolutely. I've already seen.
When you stay in righteousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And based off of all our conversations, I am firmly planted that you are doing the righteous thing. And you've done the righteous thing. And that silly comment about wolf in sheep's clothing, I pray for that person.
So
I pray that person comes out of the darkness and gets into the light. I pray that individuals that are quick to judge without knowing the facts, just because it elicits an emotional response, which your situation will and does.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I have no ill will towards anyone that has commented on this thing. It's what I'm being accused of is awful.
yeah. But they're just
I fully expect a high emotional response to it.
Yeah. But like we talk about, feelings are not facts. Facts are facts. And when we continue to have our foundation in the truth, it allows us to see a little bit more clear. Not like 100% clear, because our silly human nature is in the way still, but a little more clear.
Well, the only all-knowing is God. Sorry, I'm having a thought. It's not fully formed yet, though. So
I'm reading Kahuna's comment.
Yes, Kahuna said he'll hopefully be able to join in a minute, add some absurd levity to this very deep conversation.
I hope so.
Yes. Now, like, I would consider losing my faith as a crisis of faith, obviously. Yeah. And for a long time when I was young, I blamed it on God, not me. And that's kind of the major point. If you get nothing else from today, is that it's never God. You can't blame God. He doesn't leave you, no matter how far you go. And it's something that I've applied to my life with friends and associates, people that I meet on a regular basis. If they wander off and they don't reach out and say, hey, you want to talk, or do you want to go get lunch or something, or they ignore my calls, I don't go, they abandon me, I don't like them anymore. I go, okay, this is their world. I'm here. I'm going to be here until God calls me away from this world. And they know where to find me. And I got that from God. There's no ill will. Anyone can return after any amount of years. It could be most of my life. My best friend from high school could reach out to me when I'm 90 years old. And I will treat him as if a day had never passed. Because to me, that time is and distance doesn't matter. If I care about someone, I care about someone. And God cares about every single one of his creations. It's static. It never goes away. But it's in our perceptions that we put it on God, and he becomes the name for our pain in some respects. So we choose to walk away. And that's what I did when I was young. I was so angry about what my father did to me and to my brother. And the fact that he would get up on Sundays and preach. And just hit me. Maybe that was the thought that was forming in that moment a minute ago. That's exactly what that comment said to me. My father was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I blamed God. I didn't blame the wolf. Almost 20 years, I blamed God. I went looking for the answer to the universe in everything but God. All sorts of religions, all sorts of philosophies, everything but the Bible, I would read. All because I was angry at my father for the way that he behaved. I put myself through that long crisis. Should apologize for that too, now that I'm thinking about it. Have to do that next mass.
I think you just did.
Well, yeah, but I know he heard me, but I'm going to do it formally as well. But really, I mean, like, communion and vigil mass, that I was highly emotional in the pew throughout the entire mass. But when we got to communion, that moment, the weight lifted. Like, you hear that from people all the time when they speak of great miracles in their faith. I walked back to my seat and all the tension left me. It's a highly stressful situation that I endured a couple of days ago. The tension came back. I'm still shaken about it. I have very weird dreams last night that were unnerving. But in that moment afterwards, that tactile acceptance of God's forgiveness for my crisis of faith, it gave me hours of peace. If it only ever gave me those hours of peace, that is a treasure. There's not a lot in this world that will give you that kind of peace. Kahuna is commenting again. He says, so how do we talk about the less admirable traits of people in our lives, like our parents, while still honoring them? That is an excellent question.
And another topic for next week's Coffee and Christ. Just kidding.
No, it fits because you can, like, using
question.
Myself as the example, I can honor my father for bringing me into this world as God ordained.
Yeah.
Without him, I would not exist. And to be frank, I'll put it out there. When I was 18, my father killed himself because he couldn't take the weight of everything and he couldn't give it to God. Even though he was a man of technically the cloth as a pastor, he couldn't give all of his pain and guilt and shame and what have you. He couldn't give that to God so that he could continue and try to live a better life. He broke that covenant. But I can still honor him as my father. I can't honor him as a man for what he did. I can't honor him human to human. But without him, I wouldn't exist. Without the effort that he put in to have my mother fall in love with him and then marry her so that I could exist, this conversation wouldn't exist. This information that I'm sharing with all of you wouldn't exist in this form because I wouldn't have gone through what I went through and been inspired to have this conversation at all. You see, we can't see the pattern forward, but we can look at the pattern backward. And I believe that when you look at the pattern backward from the lens of there is always a purpose behind God and God's movements within this world and beyond this world, frankly, because I'm sure a great many insane things happen. I'm not going to go in any details, but something very special happened yesterday because of a bunch of really ridiculous, highly stressful, stupid things that occurred around the main event. But it was so incredibly poignant. A boon grew out of all of this darkness. A major good thing occurred. That's what I'm talking about. There's a greater pattern in everything that happens. We focus on the bad things, and that's where crises come from when it comes to crisis of faith. And we tend to not really give the deference to the miracles that occur.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go with it. It's the miracles that occur. Like I don't know if any of you guys out there have ever watched a time lapse of a child forming in the womb, though. And if you haven't, I implore you to do it, because that in and of itself, like, you cannot watch that, in my opinion, and say there is no God. Like when the spinal cord comes together, it literally looks like you're being knitted together in your mother's womb. It's an amazing thing.
That's
And those
wild.
miracles, it is wild. And those miracles like that, to your question, Kahuna, I'm with Daniel. What do you focus on? Where your focus flows, your energy goes, right? So my focus, I don't focus on the bad traits of my parents. First and foremost, as a parent, Daniel as well, and you too, Kahuna, like, we've all fallen. We've all fallen short of the glory of God when it comes to parenting. And and we could be called the wolves in sheep's clothing, because in those moments, because we come and talk about like being righteous and like being a solid parent, but we are human and we fall. The question is, what do you do when you fall?
Yes.
Do you stay fallen? Do you stay in that darkness and just continue to live there and be incongruent with who God created us to be? And for some parents, the answer is yes, and that's unfortunate. And my heart goes out to not only those parents, but especially those kids. And when the incongruency occurs, like Daniel just talked about his father, and thank you for sharing that, dude. Like, the brain gets to a point where when you live incongruent for so long, you can't perceive a way out. And there's only one way out. And, I was there 22 years ago with a noose around my neck, ready to end it all. Now, being 16, I was looking at all my parents' traits in that very particular moment, and whoever my mom was dating at the time, and said, "This is stupid. Life is done." I felt alone. I felt abandoned, and there was no God. There was no Christ. Like, I knew that God existed, but I had already gone away from the faith at that point. And for me, there was only one way out. But God had different plans. Like, it's a simple thing, but I'm so grateful that my mom opened the garage door seconds before I stepped off that stool, because I also wouldn't be here today having this conversation. I also wouldn't have married who I married and had 3 beautiful children and met some awesome dudes on the internet that I chat with every week now. Like, it's those moments where I can honor them for everything that they did that was righteous. Because even in all the unrighteousness, there are still righteous things. Your dad still got up every Sunday and presented a message that was probably a solid message.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah, I would say I have zero doubt in that. Especially since you are cut from that cloth. Like you're like, yeah, zero doubt in that. So it's what do we focus on?
Yes. It matters what you do more than what your parents did.
Yep.
And I learned that lesson when my daughter was just about to be born. She wasn't even in the world yet, and I was struck with an awful thought. Suddenly, I called my mother and I cried, and like ugly cry, not like boo hoo hoo. Like she could barely understand what I was saying on the phone because I couldn't control my voice. Cried. But once I was able to get control of myself, the question that made that happen was, if my dad beat the out of me, was I going to beat my own kid? Was that pattern going to repeat? Am I a monster like he was? Because he physically, I am of him. I am of monster. And that's a juvenile way of looking at it, but I was very young at the time. And that was what my mother said. You are who you are. You be who you want to be. If you don't want to be like your father, don't be like your father. And I made that vow. I successfully raised that girl for 23 of her 25 years on this world by myself. All predicated on I am not my father. I am me. So it's always a choice. It's always how you choose to perceive the world. You can let the things that have happened to you define you for good or ill. Because sometimes we get defined in great ways by the things that happen to us. Oh, real quick, Bill busting out the Crow quote, "It can't rain all the time."
No, but we need rain for a beautiful harvest, right?
Absolutely. And Draco says every trial has a purpose. That is correct. That was the point I was making in total, was everything happens for a reason. I have endured something truly tragic and awful, but there's a purpose to it, and I've already seen the purpose, the true purpose behind it happen in one great way, in one significant way. It allowed me to have a conversation with someone that is also separated from faith. It gave me the opportunity to come up with this episode to speak about. And everything will resolve in time. It's not going to happen in a minute or an hour or even a couple of days. This is going to be an unfortunately long process. But over the course of that process, I believe every time I get an opportunity to speak to someone about these things is an opportunity to share in what is now my incredibly restored faith. Like, my faith was restored years ago when I converted and became Catholic. When I felt those invisible hands on me at that first mass, my faith was restored. But this has firmed that faith for me. Because I'm not perfect. I freely admit it's been a couple of years since I felt that invisible force fully. I kept going to mass. Sometimes I didn't go. Sometimes I skipped it because I didn't feel like it. But after this, I have no desire to skip it. After this, I have no desire to hide my faith or just not bring it up. After this, I think everyone needs to hear, whether they believe or not, that regardless of what people do to you in this world, God never leaves your side. Because he sure as hell gonna leave mine. In what is ostensibly the worst day of my 47 years of life. I said something in our men's group chat. I think it was yesterday. It might have been Friday. Can't remember now. Days are a little blending together, but it just sort of sprang out of me by accident. I've said it before and it never really caught my attention exactly the way it should have, but I think the thought has always been in there, and that's you are never alone. There may not be a physical person standing next to you, but you are never alone. God made this world in such a way that he is always there. His host of angels are always there. His son is always there.
The Holy Spirit is always inside of us.
Exactly. By the very nature of our creation, there is an impart of divine spirit. So within you is a whole separate entity tied to your soul. So you are never alone. You may feel alone. The enemy may tell you you're alone, but you aren't. It's a fact. And we're going to have a deeper conversation about that on another episode of Coffee and Christ, because once it was pointed out to me, I went, man, that can apply to a lot.
Yeah. I'd like to dive deeper into when you're away from the faith, is the Holy Spirit still there? So
Oh, yeah.
And my gut reaction is, of course, yes. Because like we talk about, I try to take many of things from a very simple, juvenile, childlike frame of things, because I feel that's what God calls us to try to do. And in all of our, adulthood, we make things way more complex than it actually needs to be, because we think we have all these thoughts and knowledges and things like that, and it's like,
I'm 47 years old. I know everything.
Yeah.
You can't tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. And it's like, no, you just go lift the weights, and then you put them back down, and then you lift them back up.
Pick up the heavy thing.
Yeah. You just eat the salad. That's it. Yeah. You just eat the salad.
Eat the salad, not the chicken nuggets. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they're delicious.
Yeah.
But eat the salad.
Was it? Simplicity is ultimate sophistication.
Yes.
And Da Vinci, or is one of those dudes, said that.
Out of the mouths of babes comes wisdom.
Out of the mouths of babes come wisdom. And it's those realizations that, though initially might feel juvenile, I think that's God inserting into our brains, like direct line. Whenever I have a simple yet profound thought, I'm like, thanks, God. Needed that one.
Yes.
I truly do believe that, we are never alone. And there are moments where in my life, even after coming to faith, where it felt like I was alone. When my daughter was born, after she was born, there was a moment where, some stuff happened in my life that I felt immensely alone. And yet, God was working through my wife in that moment because she looked me dead in the eye and she said, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. I feel fine, even though, from my medical perspective and everyone else's medical perspective in the room, she should have felt way worse than she actually was feeling. And I directly contribute that to the Holy Trinity working through her in that moment. And it was that was probably the worst thing that I went through, where it my faith was reaffirmed very, very strongly. And you know, I one of the prayers that I think many of us need to continue to say is like, just help us in our disbelief, because our human nature and the enemy, like principalities of darkness, right? Like they are constantly at war, even though we can't see it. And what are they fighting for? They're fighting for our souls.
Mm-hmm.
God wants us to be chilling with him in heaven. Principalities of darkness want us, otherwise. And when we are firmly planted in our faith, it's, those crises, when we come at it with a righteous frame of mind, we can just sit there in the fire like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and feel that fourth man next to us.
Absolutely. Good morning, Maji Chan. And that's why I say yes when you ask, even if you walk away from God, you still have the divine spirit inside of you. Of course you do. That answers the question right there. We all know what's true in the world.
Yeah.
Even the ones who are telling us that it's not true, they know it's embedded inside of every single one of us. The spirit is there. If you choose to ignore it, that's on you. You choose to try to tell everyone else that whatever they know is true is false, that's on you. But it doesn't diminish the spirit. It's still in there. I walk through life making ultimate awful, stupid decisions as a child and as a teenager, still acting like a child. I was, for all intents and purposes, the pre-evolved version of the current day liberal when I was young. I was ranting and raving and railing about not being able to get what I wanted out of life, blaming everything else, looking for someone to do it for me because I was having fun. I wasn't having fun. I was just doing stuff that was making me feel good in the moment and calling that fun. But deep down, the biggest breakdown, the thing that made me so depressed when I was young was, I know all of this is bullshit. Why do I keep doing it? And I think everyone does. I think the biggest part of insanity in the world right now is we all know what's real. And the longer we continue to try to delude ourselves, the crazier we get. So how can you live in opposition with your own nature? That in and of itself is a crisis of faith.
Exactly. Bingo. Words out of my mouth, my friend.
Yeah, we were
The
on the same wavelength there. I saw it in your eyes.
it's the incongruency. Like
Donovan,
God,
oh man, this is friggin' poignant. Why do I do evil when I wish to be good? Yeah,
because we choose to.
right. For whatever
And
reason.
yeah, well, and I know that like in Christian circles, a lot of people try to blame everything on the enemy, and it drives me crazy because that's I mean, we've talked about this before. Extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Do I believe everything falls on our shoulders? No, but at the same time, yes, because the whispers of the enemy, do we choose to listen to those? Do we choose to let it implant in our hearts and our minds? It's still a choice. And it's our choice due to the free will God has given us. So ultimately, yes, it is us. That's just like, it's just coming to me.
I know,
Like
it's crazy.
yeah. Okay, ultimately, it is all us. It's all us making the choices. And God, like a shepherd, tries to guide us with his staff. Sometimes the staff hurts a little harder than other times. um, but nonetheless, he's trying to guide us. But there will be 20-year hiatuses where we leave the flock, and God leaves the 99 to go look for us, and He knows exactly where we are the whole time. But He gives us the free will to like, okay, this little sheep is going to explore. He's going to do some things that are unrighteous. But I know if I'm just here, sitting with Him, He will come back to me if He chooses, because that's what the agape love, one of the things that agape love entails. It's
Absolutely.
not tyranny, it's not a dictatorship like some other gods out there. It's true love where God has created natural consequences in this world, and He lets us fall so we can feel Him pick us back up. Those hands that you talked
Sometimes.
about. Sometimes, yeah.
So
Not always.
you're a fellow
Nothing's always.
Yeah, you're a fellow parent, so I think you'll get this. If you ever kind of wondered, like when you're doing stuff with your children, especially when they're like toddler age and they're just starting to explore the world, but they're not really all that steady. Have you ever wandered around where they're wandering around and you just sort of nudge things away from them, like
Oh yeah.
nonchalantly?
I mean, I'm in
You
it
know,
right now. 15-month-old dude.
yeah, like not even drawing attention to it. You're not going, don't touch that, don't mess with that. But it's like you just sort of move over there while you're talking
Doing it
to
with
them
your
and sort
foot.
of kick it away with your foot. Yeah, I I remember in the backyard with my daughter, she's playing, and we had a like a stone pit that my barbecue grill was on, stuff like that. And I would try to keep her in the grass. But you know, with stone pits, sometimes the stones roll, slide, whatever into the grass. And I'm just walking around with her. She's walking around and playing and throwing the ball around, and there's a rock nearby, and I'm watching her foot close to it. And I'm like, okay, she's gonna trip on that. So I just go over, pick the ball up, hand it to her, and kind of kick the rock back towards the pile and just let it go. I believe that God does that in our lives. We don't see all the things that He moves around to protect us. And another thing to Drago's comment, I'm going to bring up real quick, very specific language in the way that he presented this. Why do I do evil when I wish to be good? He didn't say, why am I evil? Evil is an act. Good is a nature. That's a choice. Evil is a decision that you make. But all of us, born of God, given the Spirit within us, we are good. So God made us to be. We were designed to be the caretakers of our world. We were designed to do good things for all things. Said to Adam in the beginning, all of these things are for you. Take care of them. Tend to them. You have dominion over them. Treat them well. It's a choice. But it's his expectation.
Yeah, that's why I am not in the camp of people are inherently born evil.
No.
It's like,
I don't believe that's possible, because children are the perfect example of that.
Correct. Like, give me a child. And prior to the worldly things influencing them. So, we'll say under 2. Like, give me a child under 2. And they just look in their eyes. I mean, like, it's as simple as that. There is no ill will. There is like, oh, I'm gonna get you. Like, there's none of that. There's none of that. And when we're going through our crises, like, that's how God looks at us.
Totally.
God knows that, inherently our nature is to do good, to live righteous, to love everyone. And
it's most seen in infants. Again, as a parent, I suspect you've done this as well. You ever played the baby face game?
Oh, always.
So for those of you unaware, infants have a instinctual empathy based on the physical characteristics of what they're looking at. So if you hold your baby close to you and you smile at them, they smile. They feel happy. It creates an instant joy. If you hold your baby close to you and you put on a sad face, they'll start to cry, because they see it and instinctively know this person is upset. They instinctively know this person is happy. You show them an angry face, their eyes get wide and they get very concerned, confused even. Anger is an interesting one. I've read a lot about this. You show an infant an angry face and they don't get it, because anger isn't inherent. It's something that develops in us over time as part of, as I'm calling it now, this fallen world. Bill says, I'm a little behind in the stream and hopping between rooms regarding God's faithfulness. Another non-biblical quote always comes to mind. And he pulls one of my favorite Doctor Who quotes. Do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference? Now, if you don't know, that comes from an episode between the Capaldi era Doctor and his companion Clara, who has a crisis of faith of her own after the death of her boyfriend and tries to manipulate the Doctor. And the full quote, he goes after her. He says, you betrayed my trust. You betrayed everything I stand for. You let me down. And she says she's sorry. And he says, do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference? It's a beautiful moment written by some very liberal people that didn't quite grasp what they were getting into. That is, Bill's correct. That is in
Sums it up.
essence, yeah, God right there.
Yeah.
I've always cared for you. I created you and I love you with every part of my grand universal being. You are never alone. You only think you're alone because that's your choice. And I've known that all my life, but only until now, 47 years since I was born, has it really made itself fully prominent to me. And it may not have made itself fully prominent to any of you yet, but I suspect it will in time. And I hope that this conversation implanted that seed for you for when the time comes.
On every crisis and hardship is all part of the tapestry that God is weaving.
Definitely. And
Every
because to be honest, without my faith, I don't know that I would have survived the other day. I think without my faith, that would have been the moment that broke me.
And you would have spiraled back into old habits.
Or worse.
Yeah.
So there will be a crisis. Guarantee it. But when it happens, try to remember whether or not you affirm your faith, whether or not you even accept that God exists, He does, and He's there. You are never alone. I think that about wraps it up for this very heavy topic. Jonathan, you want to let everybody know where they can find you if they want to talk?
Yeah. So all the socials, I'm at _ wellness dad, and like Daniel said, like, no matter what you are going through right now, I don't care if I've never had a conversation with you before. Reach out, because I don't want you seconds away from stepping off a stool. I don't want you, to, even if you are on that path right now, there is a way out. Whether you believe in God or not, I'm here for you. Daniel's here for you. Like, you're never alone. Reach out.
Absolutely. And if you're interested, as I've said and repeatedly said every time we've done these shows, we have a men's group. If you would like to join our conversations, if you need help, want some support from a brotherhood, you can ask any of us. We'll bring you in, get you involved. You can join in these conversations. And if you feel so inclined, you can be part of these Coffee and Christ episodes. They're open to all members of the group. As you know, I am Daniel P. Riley. You can find me on X at Mr. DP Riley. You can leave a comment here or wherever you're watching it, because this streams to multiple locations, and I will check them and we can talk. You can also, if you really want to, go on whimsyland.org, hit the contact button, and leave me an email, and I'll get back to you. You don't have to suffer in the perception that you're alone. If you need a physical person, we're here. But always know God is with you. And as always, get thee to church. We'll see you guys next time.
Later.